one story where this father complained to, I think it was Walmart. He was like, why are you keep sending me all this baby stuff? Like, I don't, like, I have no need for any of this baby stuff. Like, why you just suddenly just keep sending me all this baby stuff in the mail? And Walmart was like, well, you've been ordering a lot of baby stuff. We figured that you would need it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then he realizes that his daughter, his like young teenage daughter, is like pregnant, buying all this baby stuff on the side.
Plot twist.
Yeah,
Father's losing his mind now.
probably, yeah. That's an emotional virus for sure. Greetings and fist bumps. This is the Raised Eyebrow Podcast, where we discuss how human beings being human cannot feel human sometimes. But somebody's got to do it, and we are your hosts, Kojo, Mike, and Alex. In this week's episode, we discuss emotional viruses. That's right, it's a thing. We've all had those moments where it feels like all of our friends and family are clinging to an emotion based on something that happened in the world somewhere. But we've also had those moments where we stopped, questioned, and asked if this emotion actually makes sense for the situation. Well, some of us have anyways. Are we all just doomed creatures on emotion, or is there hope for any of us? Let's do a deeper dive, shall we?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
So, we're
How goes
going to
it?
get emotional in this one. My lights just
Emotions.
flickered in
Okay,
my
so
room. Holy crap.
your lights are emotional.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into emotional viruses. So I whipped out a definition here, doing some research. So what is an emotional virus? It is a thing, like you mentioned in the intro. So rather than being a literal virus or pathogen, an emotional virus indicates the passage of a mood from one individual to others. Makes sense, right? So, okay, what are some examples that you guys can think of that are emotional viruses?
I think from the start, when you have a baby and you smile in front of the baby and this baby smiles back, right? Because at this point, there's no language. Like, you can't speak to the kid.
Oh,
The
that's
kid
deep.
probably doesn't even understand what it is, but they respond, which is kind of amazing.
Yep. And all humans respond to babies. That's like an ingrained, but I don't know if that's a virus, but okay, when a baby falls or a kid falls, and then if you don't react, the kid's fine. But
Right.
as soon as like one adult goes, oh my God, then the kid's like, oh shit. Yeah. And so if all the adults, like, how do I phrase this? If all the adults in the room freak out, is that an emotional virus? Probably.
Like, it could just be like, you're having a bad day. You kind of take it out on somebody unnecessarily. Like, let's say I don't know, cashier at your local coffee shop. And then they kind of take it out on somebody, and then it kind of just goes on and on and on like a virus would.
Right.
But I also saw like this one, it was an ad for a radio station. I forget what radio station it was, but there was like somebody, they're a receptionist, and they're sitting there humming a song, and then somebody walks by, and then they hear the song, and then they start humming that song, and then they're in the elevator with somebody else, and they're humming that song, and then the other person starts humming that song. And then in the end, it's just like the logo for the radio station. Smart ad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can even see it like you're entering like a shop, like a coffee shop or a bank, whatever. And then you hold on to the door to allow someone in. And then the person would also hold on to the next door when you're entering, which can also lead on to other things. Like perhaps maybe the person is having a really bad day, but you opening the door opens up that, oh, thank you. And they open the door for you as well, or do something else for somebody else.
Yeah, like emotional viruses, it doesn't have to be a negative connotation, right? It could be very positive among a group of people. So like, social etiquette, in some ways, like what is social etiquette? It's just the way we're trained to behave in public, right? So are we creating an emotional virus by creating social etiquettes?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, since it's an emotion, it could be good or bad. So
Exactly.
You have anger. You also have joy.
The
Right.
full spectrum.
Right. Yeah. I see it even more often in like the reason why in sitcoms, like Seinfeld, for example, they have that laughing sound on the
Oh yeah,
background,
the laugh track.
Laughing
Yeah,
track, yeah.
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 Because there are times where not all the lines are funny, but because someone is laughing, you're gonna laugh as well.
Right, you're more likely to laugh.
There's this one YouTube video where they have friends without a laugh track. Not
oh,
funny.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just big deadpan. It just seems like snarky,
Yeah.
Yeah.
30-something-year-olds.
Or there's
Or late 20s.
one video was just a bunch of clips of Ross, and they took out the laugh track, and then it was like, Ross, racist or funny? You decide. But if you watch it without a laugh track, you're like, holy crap, like the things he says to these people, oh man.
Right.
Definitely wouldn't hold up in 2023.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Friends would be canceled. Yeah. Just the amount of like fat jokes, fat shaming they do, racist, like borderline racism that would be considered racist now, but even like 30 years ago when it was on the air wasn't racist.
Oh, yeah. I think most popular comedy shows would not fly today. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this in a recent podcast of ours, but Steve Carell said recently, or a couple of years ago now, that if they tried to do The Office today, it wouldn't work because they couldn't say most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And The Office was when did The Office end? Like 10 years ago?
Yeah. The thing that gets me is
pretty recent.
like Gen Z, they tend to be more, let's say, woke,
Sensitive.
sensitive to things. But
Yeah.
Friends is very popular with them. And so it's just kind of an oxymoron. It's like they're canceling everything else except Friends, which aligns to all the things that they've been canceling. I just if you're gonna pick a direction, just stick to it. I just don't get it.
So what you're saying is we need a laugh track for
Everything.
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Just bring
put
back
a laugh track
tracks.
on like Trump and Andrew Tate.
Yep.
And
It's like,
Yeah.
This guy makes a good point.
Yeah.
Got my vote.
I mean,
How
I
do I
think
sign up?
you can get away with a lot of things if you add some kind of like humor, laughter, or like even a smile,
yeah.
Yep.
right?
Shout out our comedians, the modern day philosophers episode. Check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I told you guys this story, but I was at the place. I'm gonna leave out some of the details of the story, but pretty much I'm at a place, and you're not allowed to take photos. So then I'm taking photos anyway, and then the attendant was like, "Wait, you can't do that." And then I started laughing, came up with a story of like, "Oh, it reminds me of aliens." And then I was laughing whilst I was saying aliens, and then they allowed me to take photos.
Interesting.
Right? And it's like, you're not allowed to take photos, but because it's funny, they allowed me to do it. So I think you can get away with laughter.
I just pictured that interaction. The guy's like, "All right, fine. you raise a good point. You had me at aliens." Okay, so we mentioned anger. I think Kojo, you said obviously that's one of the emotional viruses that could take over. When I think of anger, I think sports is the number one, especially in like riots. Let's say like we've talked about soccer hooliganism.
Right.
There was a riot so we live in Canada, in case you don't know. In 2011, the Vancouver Canucks, they lost the Stanley Cup Finals, and the fans lost their minds and started burning down the streets and flipping cars.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is happening? Your team lost a sports game where a bunch of dudes skate on ice and try to hit a black rock with a wooden stick. And because they didn't win, your city is getting destroyed. And when you think of it that way, it's like that's a real negative emotional virus.
Right.
Obviously.
I was at this, it was a Toronto Blue Jays game, It was in the playoffs. It's notoriously known as the bat flip game, where Jose Bautista did the iconic bat flip. So I was in the stands in the upper bowl for that game with my friend. So what happened was the catcher, Russell Martin, had thrown the ball back to the pitcher, but the hitter, Rugna Dordur, had his bat out because he was kind of like stretching his arm out. And the ball that Russell Martin threw back hit the bat and then went on the ground. And the Blue Jays didn't really kind of rush to get the ball because they figured that play had stopped. But the runner on third base had the wherewithal to run to home and then ended up scoring a run. And then the umpires counted it as a run. And nobody knew what was going on. And then there was like all of this commotion down because you had like, both managers came out. They're arguing at the umpires and the fans are all into it. This is the playoffs. And this is like against Texas, and I think it's like a best of 3 series at this time, and they never told the fans in the crowd what was happening. I'm sure that the fans watching at home knew exactly what was happening because you had the announcers explaining things to you, but inside the stadium,
I was at home.
They never announced anything of what was happening, and so we're in the stands, and everybody around us, there's like this concerted effort to like scour Twitter and try to figure out what's happening. And there's like we're asking like people on Twitter, like, do you know what's happening? Are you watching the broadcast? We're at the stadium, we don't know what's happening. And there's like this broken telephone happening across the entire crowd. Meanwhile, everybody else is like, they're getting mad, and it's the beer cans throwing on the field, and then you have the police come onto the field to try to like protect the players, and potentially because they may have to go into the clubhouse to kind of quell the situation. And it's just like this rising tension in the stadium. And I remember I turned to my friend, and his name is Jamie, and I remember we both look at each other in the eye, and we're like, okay, so if this turns into a riot, what's our plan?
Where are the exit doors?
Like, we started to strategize because like this could go sideways any minute now. Because you could just feel the tension just rising.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honestly, all they had to do is just come on the loudspeaker and just explain what happened.
Right.
Put it on the video board. Explain it.
So you had 50,000 confused people.
Yeah, because
slowly
no one
building rage rising.
Right.
Because you had a
and it
rule
would be a good experiment for people watching at home, because then they probably heard something on
Oh yeah.
and they're like, wait, what's going on? Why are these people acting up?
Yeah, and then like
I watched that
Canada
game
kind of
at
got a bad flack because they're like, oh, they don't understand baseball. It's like, well, I mean, I actually give flack to the stadium. Like they should have, turn the mic on and say, this is what's happening. But all they did was like, don't throw beer bottles on the field. Like, yeah, obviously everyone knows that, but why don't you explain to them what is happening? Because the rule had barely, it's so rare that actually happens that most baseball fans wouldn't even know that was a rule. And the umpires even had to look it up just to verify it. They had to go to New York to get verification. They're like, is this even a thing?
They went all the way to New York.
Well, because you just call on like the VR thing, right? And then New York was like, yeah, that's a rule, and the run counted. And then the next at bat, and then Texas got out the next out, and then the next at bat was Jose Bautista. You have this tension in the air, and then Bautista crushed it, and then he like threw his bat. And then that was the iconic bat flip. But those are the events that kind of like led to it.
Yeah. Nobody remembers the events before.
No.
You just remember
unless you were there. Because I didn't even see the bat flip until after when I saw the broadcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense because you saw the ball
leave
the park. But I wonder if that's why. Well, I'm sure that added to like the euphoria of him getting that home run, because like there's all this frustration and confusion, and then like it's very real human emotion, right? So and then when you feel that success, and it's the opposite emotion, right? Nothing but
I
good
find
things.
sports plays with your emotions a lot.
Oh my god, it's so pure, right?
Yeah,
it's so pure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even that World Cup final with Messi versus Mbappe, that was. Oof.
if you're ever bored, go on YouTube and look up like Argentina fans watching the game. Where it documents like every goal. Like sometimes there's like influencers. They'll speak English, right? They're visiting Argentina. And it's just like, okay, this just happened. And then like 5 minutes later, okay, so this happened. And the whole, it's like a different video, you know? But it's crazy. Like that's an emotional virus.
Yeah.
101 right there.
Or even just being in the stands at a soccer stadium. Like I like where my seats are for the TFC, they're near where the supporters are. And you kind of can hear them. And it like I sat at another part of the stadium, which was further away from them, and it just felt different. Like I'm like, I can't hear anything. There's no chanting. There's no singing. There's no like smell of beer in the air. Like I just need to have, just like it's different. It's quiet. It's not soccer.
We have another sponsor, and I think our listeners will be really hyped about this one. Guys, we're officially sponsored by Sleep.
Oh, you mean like the mattress company?
No. I'm talking about the concept of sleep. Like we're going to promote the act of quality sleeping.
Right. So you're saying that Sleep is paying us to promote it. But like who's representing this concept of sleep? Do our people call their people and we negotiate the terms of promoting sleep?
Wait. What do you mean by their people?
No, guys, we're just promoting the act of getting a good night's sleep. That means 6.5 to 8 hours of quality REM sleep, which helps the human body and mind recalibrate and rejuvenate itself for another cycle of wakeful consciousness where we can complete our daily tasks and appreciate the fruits of this existence.
Okay. So do we get paid for this, or are we just spewing words? Like, is this conceptual money?
Yeah, kinda. It's more of an act of service for our fellow humans rather than actual tangible currency being exchanged.
Oh, so it's a hustle, like crypto.
I get it now. Get your sleep, folks. The Raised Eyebrow takes no blame for oversleeping, undersleeping, or otherwise irresponsible sleep habits.
Join us today, and we'll introduce the idea of sleeping like a baby.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
All right. So other manifestations of emotional viruses. This one's interesting. So happiness, aspiration, and ambition, according to psychologists, are considered modern emotions. So like I was in the mall the other day, and there's a store, like a pop-up shop, that sells just Jordan sneakers. And I walk in, they're all in plastic wrap, and they're like thousands of dollars. And I'm like, what is this trend with Jordan sneakers? I mean, I want them too, but I'm not going to spend $1,000 on Jordan sneakers, right? So I looked into that. So according to an article on Psychology Today, such characteristic emotions as ambition, happiness, and love, as we understand it today, form the very core and define the emotional experience of so many of us. But they are not universal, but they are specifically modern in the sense of being a creation of modern culture. So members of pre-modern societies were unfamiliar with these emotions because they were focused on survival. So they didn't experience ambition, happiness, love, and even, I love that, and that even at present, these emotions play only a minor role in the emotional life of billions of people living outside of modern Western civilization. And the sources of these three emotions, in other words, are to be sought not in human nature, but in modern culture. So
that's interesting.
I'm trying to think about something. It's like perhaps maybe the reason why it's not a big issue in the past is because they haven't gotten the virus yet.
Nailed it. That's what it is. No, I think we're so preoccupied with surviving. Like there's a tiger around the corner. I gotta save my kid. I'm not ambition. But I don't want sneakers.
What do I need it for?
Exactly. So our brain is just warped now, where we're wrapping our plastic shoes in or rubber shoes in plastic.
Yeah.
And charging $1,000 because a guy that was really good at a sport wore them, and there's a check mark on it. So I got to get those, man.
Yeah. So like, is it basically that emotion is relative, essentially? Like, say happiness is relative, right? Like somebody who has never, I don't know, had proper shoes. If you give them proper shoes, they would probably be elated from that experience, that gift. Whereas somebody who has like, lives in North America, you have access to proper shoes, even at affordable prices, you want more. You want shoes that you can wrap in a plastic box and put on your shelf and, never see the light of day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm trying to wrap my brains around this, but like in North America, everything is concrete. And you go to other parts of the world where things are not that so much of concrete streets and, walking bare feet on grass or in sand is so relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
So giving someone a shoe probably will not be like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Like, I mean, here concretes are hot, they're hard, so you can't walk bare feet. But if you're walking bare feet,
There are a lot of people who like started to walk bare feet now. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Probably,
like it's like a trend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like outside, they're walking in bare feet?
Yeah. They just don't wear shoes.
What?
It's actually not really good for you.
They claim that
concrete.
it is, like, because it okay, like on like sands, packed down paths, grass, yeah, definitely you barefoot's no problem. But yeah, concrete, apparently it is better. Like even in the running community, there's like a subculture where people run barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
You get blisters and stuff.
Yeah.
At first, but then
like
you get build like calluses on the bottom, basically.
I've actually tried playing tennis bare feet.
Damn.
Yeah,
And I
that
got
would be
blisters
tough.
all over my feet.
Yeah.
Well, our ancestors ran bare feet, obviously,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like, you have more of a connection to like the human animal when you're bare feet, especially on grass, like you mentioned, or running on the beach. Like I remember running on the beach when I went to a resort in the Dominican Republic 100 years ago, and it was like the greatest feeling ever. I was like, I've been missing out on this.
But I mean, on the topic of feelings, there are times too where like we have the nonverbal communication, where like usually at work or something, and then there's some kind of like weird, not spoken but feeling going on where either it's coming from the boss or from colleagues at work, and then they hate their job.
Oh,
no one is
like
saying
that vibe.
anything, and it's like
there's
the
a
vibe
vibe.
is there, and like
Yeah.
it becomes very toxic, and
Yeah.
Chaotic.
Yeah, we've all been there, that's for sure.
Yep.
Those are fun days.
All
Yeah.
have that bad. or jobs. You've all been in that office or whatever workplace where just everyone's not having it. Everyone's moody.
Because there's some like leaders who their style is more of like the fear. So then the moment they enter the office, everyone has to be running away or be working, and so it creates that toxic atmosphere at work.
Or even like office politics, where there's like different departments that don't like each other or something like that.
Yeah.
Or different bosses that are, fighting for a promotion. And it's obvious.
I actually found this like, especially in universities, where you have people spread some kind of like stories about teachers or professors, and then it creates this whole, weird, like it's like, oh, I hate this teacher's teaching style, and then by the time it's like everyone hates the class.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
It's like a reputation.
Yeah, like some people will say, "Oh, this teacher is mean. This teacher is this. You can't get a passing grade from this teacher."
Yeah, that's an interesting example because I've been in those situations as well. And then like I remember being in situations where I felt differently from the majority of people, and I wouldn't necessarily say it out loud, but I'd be like, like teacher's fine with me.
Yeah, because usually when you're new from the group, everyone else hates that teacher, but you probably don't have that issue just yet. And then you're like, oh, but he's a pretty cool guy. Right?
Yeah.
Because everyone starts that contagious virus thing and then spreads throughout the whole class.
Yep. It's like identity politics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's
Speaking of
open that
identity
can of
politics, the comments section on social media.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's if you want to talk about like bad vibes and emotional viruses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Is trolling an emotion?
A
lot of trolls on there.
Yeah, you're kind of stoking the fire, that's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Whether
avoid
you know it or
avoid them
not.
at all costs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Although some
Because
comment
I think
sections
it
are
starts
fun.
with one person. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's always like that one person. I was actually watching this one video where, so it's this other podcast. I actually forget what the name of the podcast is. It was just a video of somebody talking, but they So there's this one video where they're explaining how they are able to develop, like, promote their podcast through the comment sections on YouTube, and they would have they would have an actual secondary account that would just go through and troll people, and then other people would then argue against that other account, and that troll account would just say stupid things like, "Oh, that was dumb" or whatever, or "His hat's stupid," and then people will be like, "Oh, that was a great hat. What were you talking about?" And then, but the way that YouTube reads it is that it just sees like, oh, there's a lot of people commenting on this, so it must be popular. Meanwhile, they're just like stoking the flames and causing havoc in the comments section. And
rage intensifies.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's sometimes like some brands do that,
Yeah.
I don't know which brands though, but and then some comment sections actually are pretty fun. Like a lot of confectionery and candy and stuff like that, like Oreos, Wendy's, they have pretty good comment sections in their Twitter feeds and stuff like that. They're just
Never been on a
No, me neither.
Twitter feed.
there's like a whole like
No.
Twitter subworld of like brands playing around with other brands. Like it'd just be like Wendy's would just like, oh, there's this one I saw where it was Domino's commented on Blockbuster's Twitter account, and Domino's was like, we used to have some great Friday nights, didn't we? Back in the day. Like they just go back and forth with each other. It's just like a fun thing to kind of play around with. Usually that's where you can find the raised eyebrow on Twitter, is just us playing around in the comment section on brands. We keep it clean though, but yeah,
Not always.
yeah.
Yeah. Wait, how do we get from identity politics to
we were at
brand war?
Oh, social media.
communication.
So are political movements emotional viruses?
I would say so.
Let's not get too deep into which movements or whatever, but in generally speaking,
No,
I think
like
especially
name
nowadays.
I think they play on it.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think everything's
Definitely.
like so tribal, especially
Yeah.
as people are less religious. They say politics is the new religion, right? So
Oh yeah.
like whatever the narrative is, people don't stop to dissect it. It's just what's our line? Okay, we believe this. Cool.
Yeah.
And then let's go to war with the other side. And so people who are in the middle are trying to figure out what their thoughts are. They're just bombarded with emotions until, maybe they either join a tribe or they just stay out of it completely.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of tend to prefer to stay out of it. I find that I
Or
was
think for
watching this
yourself.
one thing where they were describing how people get involved in these kinds of things. Like they were just kind of looking at people across the spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's because that individual is like mad about something, like they went through a breakup, or they're bored at their job, or they hate their job, or they're just mad at life or something like that. And then it's like you have like this certain kind of political fervor that's happening at the moment, and part of it kind of resonates with them, and then they start to kind of seek out more of that, just because like that it's kind of like a drug, if you will. Like that that source of like anger and lashing out, like, oh yeah, you know, these guys suck, yeah, down with these guys. And then eventually you kind of gradually kind of get sucked into that movement, and then next thing you know, you having like, you know, that ism is like tattooed on your forehead, and like everything you believe in is that ism. And this like
What did
documentary
Kanye
was
West
like,
say?
there's an example.
You know, I'm working on an account, and the account I'm working on, I mean, it's a client's project, right? So I don't have that opinion anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a designer, I'm helping the client with their messaging and stuff. And I noticed as I was searching through my, you know, browser, similar, even for this topic, for instance, I was researching about this topic, and then a lot of the content from my clients' search started affecting my search in a way.
Oh,
So then I'm
that's
like, wait,
interesting.
what is going on? Like, I keep getting a lot of negative messaging from all my search.
Interesting.
Huh.
The algorithms have caught up to you.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you
it's
believe these things.
it's a good way for me to also get different perspective from different side.
That's fair. It's like talking points.
Yeah.
It's just kept getting repeated.
Well, so there's also other aspects to where it's either it's in your control or not in your control. So like moments where it's not in your control is like something happens, and then you're like, wait, why am I all of a sudden sad? And that's because on the news there was something going on that you watched on the news, and that makes making you feel that way.
Yeah.
Or moments where it's more conscious, like you're
You're more aware.
you're more aware of the situation.
Like the news, they're like a drug dealer when it comes to emotional viruses. Like they just ram home
Definitely.
the same 3 points for like a month until people get bored of it.
Right.
But like you just turn on CNN. I don't, but many people turn on CNN or whatever channel, and it's the same point all day long. There's no real breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that shapes the emotion if you're not if you don't pay attention to it, right?
Do you think watching the news currently is a good thing to do?
It's tough because I think like the news isn't really news. It's just nonsense for the most part. There's a few headlines that like you should know about just so you're informed with what's happening in the world, but like to do it all day I think is a waste of your time. You should seek out like all sides of the news and then independent news and like diversify the way you get your information. But if you only stick to like Fox News from breakfast till dinner, like what do you come on.
Right. Because apparently
Don't
there's
sue us.
so if you watch sports commentating, there's an approach which works, and therefore like news channels have adopted that model, which they also use for telling the news, which is kind of interesting. Like it becomes like, you know, during sports there's a lot of arguments going on, and then so then the news is doing that where it becomes more like entertaining. So it's not we're not really interested about the story being told, but we're interested in the argument that is going on.
Exactly. It's a debate. They're not journalists anymore. They're just like opinion talking heads with some insight into their political party. Go ahead, Alex.
They kind of have to do that to survive. Like the
ratings.
The way that it was told to me was that so before really the internet kind of pretty much destroyed journalism as we knew it then, they were able to rely on like advertisers and subscriptions to kind of, you know, to publish a lot of their stuff, right? And they were making more money and they were more profitable as companies, right? So they're able to kind of have more of like a broader scope on things. And because a lot of the revenue came from advertising dollars, they kind of had to be a little bit more neutral because the advertisers didn't really want to have their product shown in a newspaper that was radical. So fast forward to like the 2010s when you had the real, like that's when like kind of journalism started to like really bottom out. The kind of the shift in journalism in the 2000s and the 2010s and into now came because they needed to rely more on a subscription model to fulfill a lot of the revenue that they lost from advertising, and they had to scale down their newsroom. So with the more scaled down newsroom, you have less voices in the room, and you have a reliance on your subscribers to stay subscribed to your subscription, so that you and so essentially what it came down to is that they have to keep feeding them the same mentality, the same arguments, so that they get the things that they want. Because as Mike said, it's like a drug. You want that drug over and over again, and and that's kind of what it ended up coming down to a lot of times. There was couple instances, it's happened a couple times with the New York Times, where they had like an op-ed where they would show like the different side of the argument from what you would typically find in the New York Times. And they were doing it just to kind of have like, okay, you know, we've covered this side of the argument quite extensively. Let's show a voice from the other side of the argument that's qualified and you know, and understands what they're talking about. They're not just somebody who's talking about it. They're qualified on the subject and knowledgeable about it. And the backlash was intense on the New York Times because they were breaking away from what was expected from them, from their readership, because the readership just wanted a certain narrative fed to them. And that's kind of a lot of the, so what happens is that even if a newspaper does try to deviate away from what they're known for, they get a slap on the wrist from the readership sometimes. Yeah. But like going back to one of your points you said previously, Kojo, that you know that like lingering feeling you get from watching like a really good movie or TV show, like if it was like really emotionally moving or really funny or really inspirational, you kind of like leave the theater or the rest of your day is just kind of like whatever that emotion was from that thing, like it just kind of just carried you on. It was I love it when a movie does that. It's just, it kind of has like that lasting impact on you. There was this one the one that really kind of stands out to me for like an interesting reason was there's this show called Broadchurch. It stars David Tennant. He's most notably he's one of the doctors from Doctor Who. And the first season of this show, a mother's child is murdered and they have to kind of like investigate the murder. And it's such like a very tense and emotionally moving thing for like 15 episodes. And there's this song that just kind of plays that's very like just like this like violin like very slowly playing and like has like this words almost like kind of sounds like a cry, and it kind of symbolizes like the mother's like emotional anguish. And like I remember watching that, it was a good show, like I would watch it if you have a chance, but after watching that thing I was just like this fit of depression. I'm like, oh my gosh, like life can't go on.
That's after every show, like after a binge of like 20 episodes or something.
You get hooked on it, right? Yep,
your life changes. Like,
for
I've
sure.
been watching the show for a week or a month or whatever it is. Like, what am I gonna do now? Real life, my emotions are just warped. Can't go to work.
It looks like stories play a big role in like all this emotional virus contagion stuff.
Oh yeah, we are storytelling creatures.
Yep. Like I you know, you can think about like the different, you know, ways, like, which in a way also makes people also want to tweet, which makes it viral. It's like one person catches the cold and then it's transferred to somebody else, like something that has something to do with joy and surprise. So then you get a tweet or an Instagram post and you share with your friend. Anger and outrage, which is one. Fear and shock. It looks like the news uses this a lot, like fear and shock.
Oh yeah.
Sure. And then, I mean, I like this one, the feeling of inspiration and hope, right? Like you see something and it inspires you. I think the movie, which, you know, would be something like that, gives you some kind of inspiration.
Yeah. Or something like really, really chill, like, you know, just like good music. Such as
Chill hop.
Yeah, like Chill Hop, which won a Razzie. Most notably known as, well, actually we have our own playlist on Spotify now. It's called Mike's Lo-Fi Party Playlist. So if you want to have your parties sounding like the hosts' parties of the Raised Eyebrow podcast, you can with the Mike's Lo-Fi Party Playlist.
I throw some sexy parties, let me tell you.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot about Mike from, you know, the fact that he listens to Chill Hop. Very calm, peaceful, mellow.
Yeah. Always wears a bathrobe everywhere.
Tell me more.
So on this topic, we have some riots that may have been sparked by emotional contagion. There's one called the Saint Valentine's Day Massacre, which happened in 1929. I don't know a lot about it, but Alex, you know anything?
Not really. The one riot that really comes to mind is like the one where they burned down the Reichstag, I think it was, in Berlin. Oh, yeah. And then that emotional virus led to World War II. Because it got the Nazis. Yeah, well, it got the Nazis power because they were got them the influence that they needed from the people to kind of say, oh, look, you know, because our, you know, because, yeah, I forgot they spun it. Like they spun it in a way where it's like, well, you kind of need us to kind of stand up for the country. So, and then they had like this whole national unity that they used to do a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
Vote for Hitler.
Yeah. Pearl Harbor is another one.
Man.
9/11.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
9/11's a good one. Even after they're like, oh, there's nothing in Iraq. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Someone's got to get some bombs.
Yeah.
COVID was an emotional virus as well as a real one.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. It was, right? Like it's everyone was scared. And you kind of had like this you know, if somebody had like wasn't wearing a mask who was within a kilometer of you, it's like, oh my gosh, like air raid sirens start going off, you know, helicopters come in with SWAT team, you know.
Yeah.
Put a mask on. Okay.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
Yeah. You also have the Watts riots in 1965.
Oh yeah.
You have the Rodney King's riots in 1992.
Oh yeah.
And then you have Arab Spring in 2011.
Yeah.
That was a famous one.
Yeah, in many ways the effects of that are still going to this day.
Yeah.
That's a survival riot.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Final thoughts. I can go first.
On that note.
So I'll say, so I hate to be the cynic of the group, but I think emotion runs the world. So I think it's the root behind every single society and the way that society can be shaped, manipulated, even celebrated. And it's all just part of being a human being. Except for the Germans. I hear they're stoic as hell.
Well, so emotions are complex. While negative emotions can be contagious, so can positive emotions like happiness and gratitude. So I think, like, you know, if you can form your own, you know, happiness, perhaps maybe some apps can help. Put some candles or, you know, turn off the news.
Yeah.
And then try and practice some gratitude, like mantras and stuff. I think that can help.
Yeah, and mine's kind of on the similar line. Like there is an antidote to these emotional viruses, and it's usually the opposite emotion. Obviously, if you're happy, I mean, I wouldn't go and make yourself sad. But if you are sad, if you are angry about something, like there is the opposite to it. There are ways to get around it. Like you could just watch your favorite comedy, Seinfeld, Friends, without a laugh track. Or you could do other things, like you could de-stress, meditate, go for a run, and you kind of like break out of that emotion, right? Like, because the emotion doesn't have like an intense hold on you. Like you just have to realize that you have the power over it, and there are antidotes to it that are mostly free. So
yeah.
I
think I want to add one more thing to it. Understanding yourself is also very important, because then you're able to understand what type of emotion you have. What environments do you need to be at or not be at. So that's important.
Yep. Know thyself, right? Socrates.
Yeah, let's go with
Know
Socrates.
thyself.
Yeah.
Sure. Ancient Greek philosopher.
The guy with the big beard. That's it.
Yeah. Greek Mediterranean guy from the ancient world. He wrote some stuff. So
Did he wear flip flops or he was bare feet or he had Jordans on?
That's a good question.
He wore Jordans.
Were they wrapped in plastic? Yeah. Follow us on all the social medias.
Socrates.
And remember,
is a
kids.
sneakerhead.
And remember, kids. Laugh out loud should never actually be said out loud.
Ooh. I like that.
Never heard that one before, right? Okay. Or LOL for that matter. Just don't do that.